A 4-year-old girl, her name Evangaline Gunter, has died after being shot point blank in the chest last Sunday by a woman who said that she was teaching the girl firearm safety. It's an absolute tragedy. This happened in Tennessee. Again, the 4-year-old's name, Evangaline Gunter. Her parents had temporarily lost custody of Evangaline. We're not told why. We are told that the mother is absolutely distraught naturally, and the mother has said that she believes that she would have regained custody very shortly. She blames herself for having temporarily lost custody of Evangaline, but that is something that happened. And with that, Evangaline was in the custody of a 25-year-old woman, her name Brianna Gail Duval Runyons, and Brianna's girlfriend, her name Christina Daniels. There was also another 7-year-old girl that lived in that family home. And on last Sunday, Brianna Gail Duval Runyons, 25 years of age, decided to teach Evangaline Gunter some firearm safety. That seems a little bit odd to me. Is that necessary? Does a 4-year-old girl need to be told, shown firearm safety? I would have thought no. I would have thought, you know what? Probably best if the 4-year-old didn't have any access to any guns. By the way, she is only in the home temporarily. Perhaps such a serious, potentially dangerous education lesson ought to be handled by her parents, but no, Brianna Gail Duval Runyons, 25 years of age, took it upon herself to teach 4-year-old Evangaline Gunter firearm safety. So what did Brianna do? Well, she got a 9mm handgun. It's normally in a case. She got it out of the case. She removed the magazine. She then, disturbingly, pressed the barrel of the 9mm gun against Evangaline's chest. Well, that doesn't seem like good firearm safety to me, but that's what this scumbag 25-year-old did, a banshee. And then the 25-year-old psychopathic evil bitch pulled the trigger, the gun point blank against the chest of Evangaline. We see the pictures of Evangaline, a sweet 4-year-old girl, shot in the chest during the course of a so-called firearm safety lesson. We know these details are accurate because of the witnesses. The 25-year-old's girlfriend, Christina Daniels, said that she saw Brianna Runyons take out the gun from the case, remove the magazine, put it to Evangaline's chest. Christina Daniels didn't think, you know what, maybe I'll intervene at this point. Hey, girlfriend. Hey, Brianna. What the F are you doing? Why do you need to teach a 4-year-old firearm safety? Why the holy F have you put a gun to the chest of this little girl? No, Christina Daniels didn't think to say any of that. She didn't think to intervene. She just stood and watched. Although she says that she turned away and didn't see Brianna pull the trigger. I don't believe that. I would have thought that if you saw anybody put a gun or any kind of weapon to the chest or up close to any kind of other person, perhaps particularly a child in your custody, I don't think you would look away. Authorities, I think Christina Daniels, the girlfriend, is full of shit. I think she saw more than she's telling you, but she's telling you enough. The 7-year-old girl that also lives in that family home has told authorities that she saw Brianna Runyons shoot 4-year-old Evangaline. She said the bullet struck a glass bottle which sent shards of glass towards the 7-year-old. So what's my interpretation of that? My interpretation, and this is going to be pretty gruesome, my interpretation is that the bullet went straight through Evangaline's chest. It was fired at point blank range, and then the bullet struck a glass bottle upon exiting Evangaline's body. Was this a tragic accident? Was this heinous negligence? Or was this planned murder? We're told that before the shooting, both Evangaline and the older girl that was living in the home, they were both being punished by Brianna for not waking up Brianna and Christina Daniels, and apparently they ate Christina Daniels' food without permission. So they had been scolded, they had been punished earlier that day by Brianna for eating Christina's food without permission. Okay, seems like kind of a trivial thing. Perhaps there's a more sinister aspect to that. Perhaps the two girls ate Christina's food because they were hungry and they were not being fed, they were not being looked after. We're told that Brianna Runyons struck both of the girls with a sandal before forcing them to stand in different corners of the women's bedroom. So I'm gonna say that that is child abuse. Both aspects of it. Hitting a child with a sandal, physical child abuse. Making them stand in different corners, well, maybe that part isn't abuse. I mean, potentially it is. But either way, we're told that the shooter, Brianna Runyons, had scolded and punished and arguably physically abused both Evangaline and the other 7-year-old girl that lives in the family home earlier that morning. So we are told told that Brianna Runyons is an abusive POS, an abusive CUNT. So what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that the act of putting a gun to the chest of Evangeline was also an act of abuse, even if, which is potentially the case, even if Brianna Runyons didn't realize that there was a gun in the chamber, even if she performed that act to scare Evangeline, that's still abusive. If Brianna knew that there was a bullet in the chamber and she proceeded to pull the trigger whilst the gun barrel was point blank range at Evangeline's chest, then she is a hideous POS evil scumbag banshee that needs to be locked up for the rest of her life. And if Christina Daniels was in any way knowledgeable, and she was standing there watching, she failed to fucking intervene. She needs to be held accountable too. She could have intervened. Brianna, back the fuck off. You do not put a gun to the chest of a child or indeed anybody else. Back the fuck off. But Christina Daniels just watched until she turned away. The 7-year-old girl was also there, presumably being forced to watch, or she was being exposed to this whole tragic incident. We're told that after the shooting, the women drove Evangeline to a nearby Walmart location to meet an ambulance. The vehicle transported Evangeline to a hospital where tragically she was pronounced dead. Of course, an investigation has been launched. Of course, her biological parents are absolutely distraught. They're ripping themselves apart with guilt. They had lost temporary custody of Evangeline and they are blaming themselves for that. Perhaps they were fully to blame, but of course neither of them could imagine such a tragedy would befall Evangeline. Where are the authorities? Is there going to be an investigation into whatever authority, organization granted custody to Brianna Runyons? They need to be investigated. There's a government body that we're not told of within this article that would have been responsible for granting custody to Brianna Runyons and her partner, Christina Daniels. That authority needs to be investigated. They need to face some level of punishment, would be my estimation. Sure, those authorities aren't psychic. They don't have the power of absolute foresight. I get that. They can't determine what happens in the future. I get that. But at the same time, they are absolutely there to ensure that children are placed into custody of sane, non-violent human beings, loving human beings, and that clearly is not the case. They put Evangeline into the custody of an abusive scumbag. Fact. And that abusive scumbag put a gun to Evangeline's chest and pulled the trigger. She can claim she didn't know. Oh, I didn't know. I thought it would be perfectly fine to put a gun to the chest of a child and then pull the trigger. I thought that would be fine. Didn't realize there was a problem with that. Yeah, fuckwit. There's a problem with that. We're told that Brianna Runyons is being held at county jail on a bond of $1.5 million. I'm going to applaud that. Again, this happened in Tennessee, so I applaud the Tennessean authorities for applying such a high bond, $1.5 million. That effectively means, in all likelihood, that she's going to have to stay in jail up until her trial, which is absolutely the right thing to do. You do not need to have scumbags like this who put guns to the chests of children and pull the trigger. You don't need scumbags like that on the streets. Does she deserve her day in court? Yeah, sure. Okay, let's give her that. Let's find her guilty of, be it manslaughter or murder, whatever the charge happens to be. And we're not told the charge within this article, which is a bit disappointing. But the investigation is, of course, still underway. So I would presume that Brianna Runyons could perhaps be charged with manslaughter or a similar charge, such that she claims that it was an accident. Oh, I didn't know there was a bullet in the chamber. I didn't think any physical harm would come from this. And to be fair, that could legitimately be the case. We don't know at this point. But that is one potential, that she is just a fucked up, child abusive idiot, horrendously negligent, horrendously reckless. That could be the case. Or it could be that she did know that there was a bullet in the gun and that she purposefully and knowingly pulled the trigger. At which point, she would need to be charged with first-degree murder, let's say. And I would imagine that there's plenty of evidence to, at the very least, convict her of manslaughter. So I've gone on a bit of a ramble there. So I'm going to wrap things up. Of course, full condolences to all those touched by the death of Evangeline. First and foremost, that's going to include her parents, who did temporarily lose custody of Evangeline. We don't know why. We don't know the details why. Perhaps if we we did, perhaps we'd feel bad towards the parents, perhaps they were abusive. We don't know. But given that we don't know, I think it's fair to just assume that they were at least somewhat good parents and their lives have been absolutely thrown into turmoil. I'm going to wrap things up at this point. If you do appreciate the coverage, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. Consider joining my memberships, and I'm going to thank you for your time.